Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Sunday service. And as you can see, we are joined yet again by Mr. Ian Hartup. How are you doing, Mr. H?
Very well, thank you, sir.
Excellent.
Looking forward to a little bit of banter.
Yeah. Like very smart looking workshop you got there, Ian.
Yeah, always still a work in progress.
Bit like this show, really. Now we've got some news items to cover tonight in the world of automobiles, and we've also got a project that I'm working on at the moment, which I am going to solicit your advice because I'm a little bit stumped at the moment. And so, shall we dive on? We'll say hello to everybody as they join this evening, but shall we dive into the schedule this evening? And the first item, which is AMT's 125th 1960 Ford F100 pickup truck. Tell us about this one, Ian.
Right. So, if you remember, I did a show, is it a year or so ago now, possibly, with yourself, when we talked about older collectible AMT kits and things like that. One of the most sought after series of kits that AMT ever produced were their 1960s pickups. Sadly, for various reasons, they've not been able to be reissued for some considerable time, primarily because it's the tooling we're missing, in my understanding. Leads to this, where they have combined what remained of the original kit with new tool bits to enable them to produce a lovely new tool 1960 Ford F100, which by all accounts in the States is quite happily flying off the shelves. Pictures I've seen of it look lovely. Have I got my hands on one yet? No. Am I unhappy about this? Yes. There are a couple set aside for me at a model shop in Seattle, waiting for me to go over in June to pick them up. Hi, Emil. Better have them put aside. And so, you know, it's one of those. It's an opportunity to build what is basically a bit of modeling history with a bit of new stuff thrown in to make it basically a major issue for AMT. They around round two for quite some time. We're working on reissues and reboxings of older kit. Now they're starting to get some new tooling around them, and they're retooling stuff. So there's retooled elements in this and in the next one, which is a 1963 pickup with a camper body that's a variation on, again, older plastic, newer bit combinations, new decals and things like that. And this is kind of where they're going. They're maximizing their opportunity from the tooling they have around them to give us new gear, new options, new opportunities, and bringing back some classics along the way. I'm not entirely sure that a 6'3" me will fit in the back of that camper, but it's still a cool thing, isn't it? So yeah, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant product, and I'm very, very pleased that they are doing this, because, you know, it's all well and good saying, right, let's have a kit of the latest Ferrari supercar. We'll come back to that in a bit. Then let's have a kit of the latest Aston Martin or whatever. But we are, and I think you'll probably get where I'm coming from this, an aging hobby at heart. You know, some of us guys remember these kits when they were new or less than 20-year-old, and they certainly aren't 20-year-old now. But by giving us the opportunity to have that nostalgia, that build back to the older kits without having to break the bank looking for a collectible piece, yeah, that makes me a happy boy.
I'm just going to read you what AMT say in their own blurb about this. The 1963 Ford F100 3-in-1 pickup truck. Stock, custom, or push truck features premium details and custom features such as 2 custom front ends, 2 sets of custom wheels, a supercharged Ford engine option, a custom camper, an optional roof flasher, and push bumper. The kit also includes all new water slide decals with lots of option. 1/25th scale, 136 parts, molded in white, clear, transparent red, and some chrome-plated parts, black vinyl tires, metal axles, blah, 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 blah. Fabulous looking vehicle, Ian.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's partly, as you say, it's partly old tooling with new bits tucked in. Yeah.
I mean, I've got an example in my hand here. They've been through a period of redressing difficulties with how the profit works, with how the business runs. They've gone through all that. They're addressing money into the business now, and we're getting new product. The thing is, it doesn't have to be new product. It's a combination to allow them to reissue stuff that's along the way that we've kind of lost a bit of. And some of the annual kits where the tooling was retooled to a later variant, you can't just go back to an earlier issue. So they're being very, very clever about how they're doing it. I'm really pleased for it. I love them. Things like this. I mean, this is a 1965 Bonneville. No modern manufacturer is going to tool that. It's never going to happen. But I get a reissue of this with a lovely decal sheet, which is buried at the bottom of the box. We'll get that out later. But they're just great. They're great kits. I'm really, really pleased to see Round 2 making as big a hit of it as they can. Of course, they own other brands. They've got Polar Lights, MPC, the other one, and they're busily investing away in that. So they've done on their website at the minute. They've got an all-new tool model of the Artemis moonshot rocket.
Yeah, I saw that, and yeah, that does look quite spectacular, doesn't it? We've got a question here from Russell Taylor. This is a very good question, Ian. Russell asks, does the Saigon 3-wheeler from Gecko count as an automotive release? It's not really armor, and there we go.
I know knew you had a picture of that salted away. My issue with that is scale.
Yeah, it's a military scale, isn't it?
It's 1/35.
Yeah.
So it's intended as a diorama accessory in a military diorama.
Mm-hmm.
Would it look good with a V8 in the back and jacked up wheels? Yes, hell yes. It's just a shame it's 1/24, so I can't. I'm probably not going to do it. But you know, I give them great. It's a fabulous subject. It's a diorama accessory. It's beautiful, and if it's as good as some of Gecko's other stuff, it'll be fabulous.
Yeah, put me down for one of them because I'm a sucker for esoteric vehicles. He said, looking at his Mini Art Tempo 3-wheeler that he still hasn't finished. But anyway, I wouldn't be a modeler if I wasn't building things and not finishing them. So next on the list, and we are jumping into the world of NASCAR, aren't we?
Yeah. So Salvinos models from America are busily producing some very, very nice new tooling kits. So this is a new tooling kit of the current, what do they call it now? Is it Universal Car, NASCAR? It's and that's this year's 2024 winner, I believe, of the Daytona 500. I'm gonna get that right. But they're already releasing a box containing plastic for this year's winner, the 2024 winner. And then they're also about to release some classics. There's a NASCAR Mrs. Carl Petty's car, I think, should be on next.
Yeah, next.
There we go. So Carl Petty's 1983 Pontiac Grand Prix. Now they, at some point, they acquired Monogram's toolings for the classic Monogram NASCARs. They've been doing things with them to reissue them in various forms, new decals, new body, and new glass, new tires. They are fabulously investing. Again, it's a big market in its home country, not so much over here, but there are still guys who love building NASCARs, and I'd love them just for the variety of liveries. I mean, 7-Eleven sponsored 1983 Pontiac Grand Prix. That's a very special model to have amongst a whole range of Porsches and Ferraris. It will stand out. It's from that point of view, coming back to that unusualness of subject, like the little three-wheeler we were looking at a moment ago. So yeah, great, really good. Coming soon from them, I think we've touched on this before, is a 1/20th scale model of this year's IndyCar and last year's IndyCar winner. So it's the classic Formula One scale. Sorry, Steve. And so that's going to fit in with what's around it. And so we're seeing a very sensible investment model with these guys. They started with a limited range of kits. They did single tooling. They acquired extra tooling. It allowed them to expand their range. It allowed them to do more releases. And now we're getting that progression into new toolkits, into future releasing, into extra stuff. And that's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And it's a business model which I hope takes them higher and higher, because the quality of the decals and the material that comes in these kits is just off the scale. Absolutely beautiful.
I gotta say though, Ian, that is one ugly car, isn't it?
Yeah, mid 80s Grand Prix were never renowned for not being hit with the ugly stick. It
kind of reminds me of the car Homer Simpson creates.
Oh yes,
yeah, that one. Yeah, we'll find a picture of that later on.
Yeah, it's much later. Yeah,
sorry, Carl Petty fans. I mean, that is, yeah, goodness me. But yeah, like as you say, it's such an incredibly buoyant market at the moment. I mean, goodness me. Anybody who's doing decal design for the car market, he says, with a professional slant, you are going to be kind of like employed 24/7, really, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at particularly with things like the NASCAR, IndyCar, that IndyCar doesn't necessarily change massively. Sorry, I'm just putting this box away out the way. From team to team, there's aero changes and power plant changes, but the general shape of it is fixed, if I remember correctly. So if you have a standard tooling on it, and as long as you apply the various changes that go on through time, you can reissue that for the whole life of that vehicle. And you can do, again, coming back to the Porsche RSR from BMAX that we touched on last time. I'm aware of about 50 Le Mans entries that ran that body shape with minor aero changes. So if you can account for those aero changes and do your tooling in a sensible way, you'll get potentially 50 box things out of that set of tooling. So much like Hasegawa do with their special editions in their aircraft and things like that, you're just going to be able to rack them out from period of time. And in the same time, it reduces the unit cost massively and enables you to invest in future projects. So I like that business model. I think that if Salvinos are doing it that way, and that seems to be the route they're taking, brilliant. Power to them. Looking forward to as much of the products as I can possibly get. Although it has to be said, in the UK, they are hellishly expensive right now.
Well, I was going to say it perhaps points to a different cultures. In as much as these car kits are absolutely huge in the States. But I don't know. In this, obviously in the UK, we have our own, we have our own tastes and things. And obviously you've got, car modelers in this country who will have an interest in building these vehicles. Yeah. But it's we've had. I've just got to bring this up actually. Some people have commented is apparently Polar Lights did do a model kit of the Homer, and there it is.
Oh, brilliant. No, I've got to admit, I didn't know that. That's awesome. I'm now going to have to find one of those. Oh dear.
Yes.
Oh, and it's got a pre-painted Homer in it as well. Even better.
Yeah. Diving onwards, Ian. Diving onwards. Goodness me. This is 3D printed, isn't it?
That one isn't, but it's 3D mastered.
3D mastered.
My understanding of it. Alpha models are a Chinese, Far East-based producer of resin kits, and they retail in the fairly chunky price market, but they are modern cars. So coming off that conversation, that comment you just made about the American market and the European market. The European market is very, very heavily influenced by the supercar and the performance car. You only have to look at the likes of Tamiya's recent releases. And you can see, and Fujimi and people like that, you can see what we're getting from the Far Eastern manufacturers. It's all very focused around Western, European and Far Eastern performance cars. So this Porsche 911 GT3 RS, and then I think the next one is an Aston Martin.
There we go.
There you go, Aston Martin Vanquish Legato. So these kits are full resin. They're not full detail. They're curbside. They're produced to a very high standard, and they're marketing, I think, around the £150 mark. They come with photo etch bits and high quality cut screens and decals and all that jazz. But and the next picture,
well, I'm just gonna, sorry, before we go to the next picture, I'm trying to kind of get it into my head that surely there are injection molded kits of the Aston Martin Vanquish out there. Nope. I know this is a specific version, but there are kits of the Vanquish out there, aren't there?
Nope.
Really?
Nope.
So given that
Tamiya Aston Martin, which is now rapidly becoming massively collectible because it's not currently in the catalogue and hasn't been probably for about 4 or 5 years, but that is the only modern injection molded 1/24 scale Aston Martin.
Really?
We do, however, have 3 1/24 scale DB5s. Let's think why that might be.
Yeah. Funny you say that, because the reason why I'm astounded that there is no injection molded kit of the Vanquish is rather infamously, it was in a Bond film. It was in Die Another Day, where it was rather infamously, it was Bond's invisible car, the Vanish.
The Vanish, yes.
Yeah, and let's not go down that road. Let's move on.
I think DBS is it DBS the one that that's driven in Casino Royale? The one they rolled over. Now that's the car that Tamiya did, without necessarily a Bond tie-in per se. So yeah, that was filmed at Donington as well, by the way. That on the Kramer S's. This is Alpha's next release. So remember what I said about the previous two? They retail around £150. Alpha seem to be aiming their market a little bit differently. This has just been announced at around the £120 mark. So they brought the prices down. What they don't appear to have done in any way is reduce the quality or the content of the kit. So whether that is a reaction to what's going on around them with the 3D printing stuff and the like, I don't know, but it's an interesting change to their marketing. It makes it more. The comment around, you think about the pricing on a full kit like this, they're not made in massive numbers. They are very high quality, as you can see.
Mm.
They fit together nicely. You're not battling them like some manufacturers. And there is enough detail for a car modeler to make a very nice model from that. Now, if we think about that at £120, and then I go and buy myself Ryfield's new Panzer IV, and I get an etch set and a turn metal, but all the extra bits that I can chuck on that, I'm going to be at around this price point. So it isn't a big transition from one part of the hobby to another. But with this, you get everything you need to all intents and purposes in the box. So, yeah. But auto modeling is an expensive part of the hobby. We're dealing with those AMT kits we were talking about, which when they came out were $1.50 and $2 a time, and now the same tooling is selling for £40-50 because the import structures and the and inflation, all the things that I've done before. But in the American market, they're like $30, $35, $40. So by the time they get over here, we're paying a lot of money for them. So, 2 AMT kits is basically that Supra. And so you kind of have to make a decision as to which way you're going with it. So
this does look fabulous, though, doesn't it? It just looks so utterly crisp.
I couldn't possibly comment on who might have one coming. At Millbrook. Now that's interesting because I thought that it was filmed on the Kramer S's, Mr. Oxley.
The Aston crash, from Casino Royale.
We'll have to check my references. But there you go. If it was because wherever it was filmed, it was a fantastic stunt. Although it was an awful thing to do to a DB. Yes.
Wasn't that the most rolls ever in a car stunt or something?
Yeah, something like that. They set a record with it, didn't they? But, yeah. So this is the on the left hand side, you'll see that there's a set of paint or pre-finished and then die cut glazings. You've got photo etched bits at the top, window frames and the like, and then you've got a very nice decal sheet. Top Secret is a Japanese tuning brand. Their cars are typically gold, and there is a specific Top Secret gold, which is available from a certain dealership, a certain specialist paint supplier in the UK. We all know who that might be. So yeah, they do some beautiful, beautiful kits. And but again, I wanted to cover them off simply because I'm trying to make the point about, and you made it for me realistically, what is and is not available to car modelers. You talk about how many model Spitfires are there? How many brands make a Spitfire kit?
I think everybody does one.
Yeah. Nobody does a big range of cars. And I had a conversation, we'll call it a conversation, with the guys from Airfix a couple of years back, and pointed out that 2004, 2005 is a very significant anniversary around Jaguar's involvement in Le Mans. We're still waiting on a decent D-type, C-type kits.
Isn't there a lot of that, Ian, down to it's down to licensing, though, isn't it? It's
see the modern cars. You look at a modern Formula One car, and they're covered in people's brands. So every decal sheet, theoretically, you have to get approval from every brand on that decal sheet. Apart from Dunlop, there was nothing on a Jaguar in that period. And I'm pretty sure that the Jaguar guys, who are currently dealing with an awful lot of negative press, might take some positive press quite nicely.
Food for thought. We've got next some 3D. Go on.
No, that's I'm just going to make a point when you put the picture up. Because if you look,
goodies.
Yeah, Russell Taylor has literally just said, have you seen these 3D printed resin upgrades from USCP in Ukraine? Here you go then. So last time we talked about the reissue of the Tamiya Fiat 500F. And this is USCP's detailing set for the interior of a Fiat 500F. And let me tell you, that is considerably bigger on your screen than it is in my hand. It's at, I know, I'm kidding you. Look at this. I always got the wrong way to the camera. I don't know why. That is just stunning.
Let me just go single thing there so that people can see.
Get that zoomed in. I'm rubbish at this.
Yeah, you need to get yourself an actual webcam for the workbench, Ian.
Yeah,
but that is just again. I'm so astonished I can't get the words out. But 3D printing can do things that resin casting cannot do, really, and that's a louvers for a wee. Yeah.
So to answer Russell's question, yes, I have. And the DB5 grill is beautiful. I've seen that in the flesh. Someone else I know has built one. It's lovely. Their wire wheels are stunning. But I don't own the DB5 kit, so I've not got around to sourcing it. For some reason, it doesn't quite do it for me. There you go. But the quality of what we're getting from the 3D printing guys is absolutely phenomenal. And the other thing is, I ordered that by mail order from Ukraine. Now we kind of know what's going on in Ukraine right now, don't we? Monday, it's here. There are certain major UK mail order companies. If I had have ordered something on Monday, I'd still be waiting in 3 weeks' time. How do they do that? Because that's just mind-numbing, isn't it? You know, when they're in the environment they are at the minute, and they're providing it. Is it Mini Art, all the other manufacturers that are busy producing loads and loads of new kits in what is essentially a war zone. And I have so much to say about those guys. They're just fantastic.
No, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like I say, when you see what the likes of Mini Art are doing, and sorry, I've just had a brain fade there, but there are all these other Ukrainian manufacturers, and the fact that they are still plowing on, they are still investing and doing new stuff. They are just phenomenal. You know, I absolutely tip my hat to them.
I don't know how they do it.
Incredibly resourceful and resilient people, I think is probably the best way of putting it. What we'll do is we'll throw it open to, here we go, Peter Oxley. There we go. Peter Oxley comes from a rescue. ICM, models fit, Dora wings, etc., all under siege in Ukraine. Mini Art now in Poland, apparently.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, folks, what we'll do is we'll throw it open to you. If you've got any questions for Ian, give us a, ping them up. But Ian, I need your help because sorry, you got. Oh yes, we got. No, we'll do that.
No. I'm sorry. That's more important. That you're about to show me is more important than that.
Right. I started this about 3 years ago, and I have, if you'll pardon the pun, I have just become absolutely unstuck with it. This is Fujimi's old Mini Cooper, as the box says, and I was going to build a kind of facsimile replica of my old Mini Cooper, my sadly dearly departed old Mini Cooper, but I followed the advice from somebody who said, "Oh, just put the paint directly onto the plastic. Don't bother doing a primer." There was something about the plastic of this kit where all I ended up with were swirls everywhere. And so, as you can see, I've taken it back to, I've put some primer on it and I've taken it back, and oh my goodness me. So this was never going to be a concours model. This was not going to be entered in competitions for a nice shiny finish. In fact, like I say, it was going to be a kind of a facsimile of my old green Mini, and in fact some of the other Minis that I've owned. And if I zoom in, you can probably just see there on the A panel, let me just get a scalpel blade. You can see there where I've been at it with a drill. If I go on the inside, you can see there where I've thinned the plastic out, because anybody who's ever owned an original Mini will tell you these A panels are usually the first thing that rot.
Yeah.
So it's going to be like I say, it's going to be a facsimile of all the Minis that I've ever owned. So it's not going to be a concours finish on this one. What I'll probably do is one of the doors will probably be in red primer. The rest of it will be a barn find. But Ian, what would be your advice to what would be your advice for the next step in getting some British Racing green on this thing? What would you do?
Right now,
yeah,
I'd be putting grey primer on that.
Right.
If you, you need to get it back to a uniform finish. So
right.
to understand what if any damage is done that you need to redress. So I put a grey primer on it, and my primer of choice for that kind of job at the minute is Mr. Paint's grey filler primer.
Okay.
Which little bottles, great stuff, lacquer based, sprays nicely, you can build up a finish when it's properly dry. And I have a dehumidifier, so I dry them overnight in the dehumidifier. When properly dry, sands beautifully with our favorite product, Trizact, to a beautiful smooth finish. Put my green on it once I've got a finish I'm happy with, having made sure that there's nothing left over adverse from stripping the green. Just because you need, that's the thing, isn't it? You've done things to that model that nature didn't necessarily intend, in that you've stripped it, etc. So you want to make sure that the finish that's underneath everything is right before you try and build up a good finish, because the best thing to weather down to a poor finish is a good finish. Yeah,
I'm with you.
So I'd grey primer it, do any revision work I need to do, get to a uniform grey primered finish that I buff back, and then put my green on. Now, for British Racing green, there remains no better thing than Tamiya rattle can. There are two Tamiya rattle cans that can be used for British Racing green. There's one for Lotus, and there's another one which, if I remember correctly, was issued for the 12 scale Mini. TS.
I'm just having a look. I may actually have the can up there, but I probably made the mistake. I definitely made the mistake of actually using a can of an actual can of British Racing green.
Halfords, yeah. TS9, TS43. There you go. You can tell I decant mine and spray. You don't have to.
Bear with me a sec, folks.
Well, which one have we got? Is that TS9 or TS43?
TS9.
There you go. British green. I think that was originally for that, if I remember correctly, was added in the lineup for one of the reissues of the 12th scale, or possibly for the 20th scale Lotus.
Right.
Or the Coventry Climax one. And then I think that's the mini one from later on. Either of them will give you typically Tamiya finish, which you can then use as a basis to then tone down, weather back, recoat, blah 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 blah.
Right. Now, when it comes to grey primer, what I do have here is I have several cans of Tamiya's fine grey primer.
Equally
Will that do the job?
And lovely stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I know.
The only reason I use the Mr. one is Mr. Brown. Don't have to decant it; it's ready to go.
All right, so you're spraying it straight from the can.
No, I don't have it's bottled, so I spray it from airbrush.
Oh right, I'm with you.
I'm using Tamiya. I would have to decant for control because I am a control freak, you know. So I will always airbrush my primers on my top coats. So I decant these, and I wrote an article in one of the IPMS magazines many years ago about how to decant successfully.
Funny you say that, because Mike Williams asks, is decanting for airbrush better than straight from the rattle can? Any pros and cons for either way? You see, I'm lazy, Ian. What I like about spray cans is just being able to go, and that's it.
And the sound effect you use there is probably the most efficient way of showing, best way of showing what I'm talking about. When you use rattle can, there is always an element of risk, a loss of control or a lack of control in application. But then again, as you saw from my blue Mustang in the video about Trizact, I can do that with an airbrush as well quite nicely. Just wasn't paying attention, got to run. There you go. But if I decant it, I've got a better chance of control. I can thin it appropriately with a little bit of leveling and things like that. So, yeah. But that said, I do still rattle can some primers in some circumstances. It all depends on what I'm doing. You know, but the majority of the time, if I'm priming, I'm using Mr. Paint Grey just to give me, and their black's equally good. The black's very good for under things like pearlized colours and darker colours. You know, your purples and your blacks and your blues, where you're wanting a nice strong backing behind the colour to give it depth. So there you go.
Now, James Tanton says, if you spray with the rattle can, you can get a good full wet coat, almost better than with an airbrush, depending on the needle.
Depending on the needle. If you're looking for a gloss coat, then a 0.01 needle is not going to give you sufficient paint volume through to give you a gloss finish. So my gloss coats are applied with a 0.4 needle. In a classic Harder and Steenbeck Ultra, it's hardly a sophisticated airbrush. 0.4 needle, good volume of paint, allows the paint to build up to give you a nice gloss finish. And if you're using something like the retarder thinners, you know, your Mr. Leveling Thinner or your Tamiya retarder lacquer, the orange one, yes, awesome retarder, it will allow it to settle better. So because it's all about volume of paint to give a uniform finish. So exactly what James is saying there. John Wick Chevelle, okay, seen his notes. That's a
right, what have you got behind you, Ian? I can see something.
What have I got behind me? These are the two alpha kits that we were just looking at, but this is something we mentioned last time.
It is.
This is the Ebro 3D printed Nissan R382 race car. There you go. Still doing the wrong direction. And you have a choice of a yellow one, a blue one, or a red one. They all raced in Japan in 1969. This thing is lovely. And again, we were talking about price points. Has a very good price point. Came from Japan in a matter of days, as it always seems to be the way. You get a very large single sheet instruction with an exploded diagram and a parts breakdown with English translations on it and some information about how to cut things off support sprues. The majority of the kit is still on support. The body is a one-piece 3D, or sorry, two-piece rather, 3D print. The quality of this is, well, yeah, very, very, very nice. I will be building it, and I will probably put as much information about that build as I can on the interesting Facebook page for people to see. And I was, when I saw it, and I thought, oh, okay, 3D printed full kit from Japan, and I thought, well, and then the price out about £100. And I thought, well, in light of these, it's got to be worth a punt. Ordered it thinking, it'll be 50-50. It's 100%. It's absolutely stunning. It's beautifully packaged. It's the parts are individually presented. Very clever way around the tires, which I've not got quite to grips with yet. I'll cover that at a later point. There is an injection molded windscreen because obviously this is Ebro, who are injection molded manufacturer. So I'm presuming that's the only bit they've actually had to tool up and manufacture the entire kit, because I know we covered that again previously. The 3D printing clear bits isn't easy. The wheels, it's just lovely. It is absolutely beautiful, and a very, very nice deco sheet which covers the variations between the three cars quite perfectly. It isn't the most complicated scheme. Yeah, very, very pleased of Leeds. Really pleased with it. Will move quite rapidly to the top of the build pile, no doubt, simply because of the novelty of the subject. And we come back to that. I do like an unusual subject, something that stands out from the crowd on the table. And that, if anybody's fancying one, I heartily recommend you get one ordered.
Ian, would it be possible to, because you've taken some beautiful photographs, would it be possible to take some more beautiful photographs and stick them up on the IMC page for us?
That was my intent. I'd left it in the bags for as long as I could, because the minute I take it out of the bags, what's going to happen?
You're going to lose bits.
Start building the damn thing.
Right.
Because I'm a butterfly. I have a pile of projects over here that's probably as tall as me. But yeah, that is what I will do a proper piece by piece review, photographs and stuff of that probably towards the end of this week. I've got some time.
Brilliant. Look forward to that.
That's sorted. But that's, those subjects where it's an obscure subject. Okay, so would never really expect a full injection molded kit of that. No matter, even if it was an aircraft in that class, you wouldn't expect a full injection molded kit of that. Although aircraft are getting more and more obscure in what we're getting now. That methodology, that 3D printed production capability is kind of gonna revolutionize what we get, I think. If people like Ebro, who are a mainstream injection molded manufacturer, let's be honest, they're not an amateur bunch. They're going to turn out a 3D printed one of them. What else am I going to get? So what? The sky's the limit if they do them to this quality, and that price point isn't adverse. That's really important as a step for me. I think that's the next thing we're going to see. And there's nothing in there that suggests it's going to be difficult to build. Will it build like conventional kit? No, because the chassis is molded in one piece with lots of detail in it. So you're going to spend a lot of time doing detail paint work and mask and spray and mask and spray and mask and spray. But that's part of the fun of it. We're car modelers. That's what we do. But that subject is just exciting.
I know I had this conversation with Mr. Tim Perry at Telford, I do believe. No, it was Avon, and it's a question that I often see people asking is why, can 3D kits be printed in regular plastic? And Tim said yes, it's what's known as HIPS, high impact polystyrene, and apparently yes, you can in theory do 3D printed kits in high impact polystyrene, but it's just the resins are far more reliable and easier. There's reasons, let's just put it that way.
We've come a long way from the filament type 3D printers that we had a few years back. That's not much more than 3 and 4 years ago. Everybody was printing on filament, and you got masses of styrations, and you had issues. And where's he gone? I have a 3D printed Groot that was printed. Oh, I've had that about 4 years. I really must get around to painting it, but you can just see layer upon layer into that thing.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
and at the
It
time,
works with him though, doesn't it?
It does work, but when that was printed for me, that was a state of the art printer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's no more than 4 or 5 years ago. And so the rate of progression from this to this and this is massive. And we're in that point, Murray's law, where the progression becomes exponential. It's, you know, it's that thing about mobile phones. There's the iPhone moment here, and then suddenly the rate of progress just goes through the roof. Electric cars will get there at some point, he says, as a car salesman. Mobile phones got there. Computers did it. It's that point in time where everything's just going to get so much better. This I'm really pleased about. Is the perfect answer? Possibly not. But it as a step forward, it's massive for me. It's a major manufacturer doing a subject of that kind.
I look forward to seeing the photographs, Ian. Got a couple of comments here from viewers. Actually, this is good solid advice. This James Tayton says, if you spray with the rattle can, you can get a good full wet coat, almost better than with an airbrush. Depending, oh no, not that one. It was, here we go. This was the one. James says that when using spray bomb, I think he means, for any of my kits, even priming, I will put it in hot water and let it get hot, because that way the pressure is better and you get a finer mist. And Peter Oxley makes the same comment. He says, rattle can, warm it up to 20 to 30 degrees, no dust in the room. Do not overcoat, and you will get a lovely gloss coat. Quickly put it under a cover to prevent dust, but with some ventilation. And what I've got actually just over there on the desk, it's a cake. It's like a cake cover, but it's got like ventilation thing in it. So perfect. Yeah.
The other option is a dehumidifier.
Right. Let me just look that up a second, Ian. Dehumidifier.
Von Chef, VONSHEF is the brand I use. I got it from Amazon. It cost me about 40 quid.
Sorry, what's that? Let me do that again. I'll look it up on. We'll do it live on the show.
Oh.
So what's it called? Dehumidifier.
Yeah. So Victor Oscar November Sierra Hotel Echo Foxtrot. Von Chef.
Yeah, I've got. Yeah, okay. Von Chef.
Amazon, and it's basically a drying rack for food. So for drying strawberries, raspberries, whatever you want to dry in it.
Yeah. I think I've found it. Von House Dean. Is this it in? I've probably found the wrong one. Let me just share screen. Is that what?
Dehydrator, not dehumidifier. My mistake. Someone's just pointed that out. Sorry, Lee. Please help me there. No, not that. No. Dehydrator.
Oh, dehydrate. Right. Okay.
Sorry.
No. We'll. Okay, this is why. This is the joys of doing a live show, because dehydrator. And how did you spell that again? Von
Chef. VONSHEF.
Von Chef dehumid. Right. Okay. Yes, I think I found it on Amazon. Right, here we go. Well, it's not Amazon, but it's similar to it. Yeah. Here we go. I think this is the thing.
Yeah. So the left-hand one on your screen there.
That one.
With the
no, I've lost it. Lost it in every sense of the phrase, folks. There we go. That's probably it.
There we go. So like that. But those trays, are obviously they're hard plastic trays, and they are each is a layer. So what you get if you come back to me is these in layers. So what you do is you take the middle bit out.
Mm-hmm.
And by doing that, you can leave one in the bottom, two like that. Your lid on with your subject matter in, put it on the unit, which is basically a heater, and it will heat it up and cure the paint to a little quicker, but in a controlled manner, which is also dust free. This one goes up to 70 degrees.
Will it start blowing seams or you know, or no? Okay.
I've never had that problem. So the Mustang that we were talking about on my video, which I have still haven't put top coat on, that was cured off in there.
Mm-hmm.
So you put your paint on, you wait till you give it a few minutes just to get to the point where you can sort of put it in, and then put it in and just leave it for as long as you want at sort of 40, 50 degrees. And the following day when you come back to it, it's as dry as you want. It's basically baking them dry. Yes, you can also make beef jerky.
Yeah, great advice for a vegetarian. That, but yeah,
yeah. But yeah, that again, I'm a tart for good tools. That I reckon that dries stuff down for me much quicker, gives me a much stronger finish. I also use it for drying decals. So I remember I'm building one of the Audi TTs in this camouflage scheme. I can put 4 or 5 primary decals on it, put it in there for a couple of hours, come back. I'm working again. I'm not like waiting overnight for them to come to dry all the time, and it gives you a better cured finish.
Do you know what? Mike Williams makes a very good point. He says, wait a minute, Kenneth Williams there for a second. He says, I guess that would work with all models. Must investigate. Yeah. Do you know what? I'm just sorry, I've got a bit Michael Caine there. Do you know what? I'm just thinking of the it's the kind of tech one-upmanship I have with Mr. Manton, is just having that new bit of kit that you kind of like sit there and pull your braces and you're just like, oh, look at me, I've got a new bit of kit.
I'm actually, to be honest, I'm surprised. I'm waiting for a message to pop up from Drew at some point that says, yeah, I've had one of them for 10 years. But yeah,
and he's out tonight.
Is he out tonight? Oh, there'll be music involved, no doubt.
Yeah. But no, I've found them on Amazon. I may invest in one of them. That sounds absolutely brilliant.
And I will remember for future reference, it's a dehydrator, and get it right in future.
Yeah. Ian, just moves over.
AOB.
Any other business?
It's that
Stole
time.
That from Fighting Talk, by the way.
We the Mini. Come back to what we were saying about the Mini. You are expected to now finish that. You know that, don't
you? It's. I'm just looking at the shelf of doom here, and yeah, I've got to finish it. I will finish it.
I put something to one side earlier in case we had to give you 5 minutes at the end to show you something. This is a little collection of artifacts.
Oh,
these are, if you know me and probably you and quite a lot of IPMS UK members and modelers from the UK modelling scene, these will be an oh my moment. Just before Telford this year, I had a message from a gentleman asking me if I wanted these books. And it was quite an emotional moment. These books belonged to a very good friend of mine and the UK modelling hobbies, but they are from the 50s. This is the Motorsport Racing Car Review 1957 in its original form, hardback. This is a lovely book about British motorsports achievements. This is a book about Le Mans. And these two are Mike Hawthorne's biographies, both pre and post mortem. Champion year, my battle for the Drivers' World Champion title, and Challenge Me the race. These are, if you're into motorsports, these and in that era, these are lovely. These belong to Mike McAvoy.
Oh, the late great Mike McAvoy.
So Dominic asked me if I wanted them. Some small amount of money changed hands, and I have them. And yeah, made me quite emotional. Still does.
Yeah,
but you might be interested in those. They're absolutely. These are first edition from 1958 and 59. So wonderful, wonderful things. And we talk about things like that, don't we? Artifact.
Well, funny you say that, because and it's Mother's Day today, and I'm going to say hello to my mum, who tunes in every week to watch this show, to see what her son's getting up to. But this goes back about 10 years ago. Mum was working for a charity shop, and the manageress just wanted to chuck out a load of books. Mum rings me up and she says, oh, they're chucking out these books. And she reads out a list of them. One of the books that was about to be thrown out was Second Tactical Air Force by Christopher Shores.
Oh dear.
Right, exactly. Because those of you who grew up reading Airfix magazine back in the 70s, this was a permanent kind of like fixture in the advertisements at the back of the magazine. Yeah, I managed to. It got rescued. I have it. It is a phenomenal book. It is absolutely staggering in the detail and information. Absolutely brilliant. So thank you, Mum.
My copy's over there somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
With that's. We have an emotional attachment to what we do.
Yep.
This is kind of the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah.
We make a model and you become emotionally attached to that model.
Yeah.
The likes of Spencer and possibly Drew. I don't know Drew, actually, because I think he does as well. Spencer's is a bit more detached from it because of the nature of what he does. There's a story he told me about walking into a show and seeing a Ferrari truck in a case and saying, well, who built that? And it turned out it was him. So he's a little bit more detached, but the majority of us get very emotionally attached to what we do because they're a subject that we're building from our heart in a lot of ways. So things like this, things like models, it's an emotional involvement, and it's one of the reasons why I love what I do with my hobby. I will get into the infinite detail of it. I'm not necessarily that good a modeler that I will find the ability to reproduce that infinite detail, but I want to understand it. And that's part of how I am. So just thought those and other things. I've got I also run this thing called the High Speed Flight, which is the IPMS UK SIG for racing and record breaking aircraft. So the High Speed Flight and the High Speed and Other Flights by H.M. Schofield, one of the guys that flew the Schneider Trophy races, with his annotations in it.
Wow.
So these are the things that I get out of the hobby. In addition to sitting and making bits of plastic, it's given me the ability and the impetus to have things like this. Massively important things. And that's an important document in a lot of ways.
God, yeah, absolutely.
So, we I think we invest what we want in the hobby. That's kind of the point I'm trying to make. So when I talk about this being an important step for me, because I can see that subjects I want to see invested in the future may come this route.
This is a brilliant discussion, and it might be one that we pick up on the
another time,
the next show. Absolutely, Ian. It has been an utter joy having you on tonight. I know everybody's delighted that you've come back for another what's the word I'm looking for? Another session. It's been absolutely brilliant, and you've certainly kind of inspired me to do something with that now. So
don't worry, if I don't have that in my hand at Telford this year, you are buying dinner.
Probably. What would you like for dinner?
It won't be fish and chips, pal.
Yeah, fish and chips is fine, folks. On that note, we are going to leave you tonight. I'm going to almost kind of like mirror what Uncle Nightshift says, which is don't just build models, don't just collect them, build them. Come on, that's what they're there for. On that note, so hopefully we'll see you next Sunday. We'll probably be back to a regular Sunday service show by then. Until then, as always, thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay out of trouble. Thank you to Ian for joining us tonight, and we'll see you very, very soon. So have a good weekend. Bye for now.
Bye.